only just begun.
You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation, as brought to you by the Foundational Friday. Our core aim is to present an experience, an opportunity for your soul to reascend to its place of origin by cultivating a healthier spiritual awareness and emotional maturity. This show serves as a free offering to the greater community and an addendum requirement for all ANU spiritual training students. For all those listening, if you'd like to move closer to the calculations and fundamental understandings of the ANU order, be sure to pick up the book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. If you desire a spiritual reading to help you map your current spiritual position in the face of your world and learn the greatest pathways for your fortune in this season, you can go to the SaduluHouse.com. That is SADULUHOUSE.com. You can also go to OrishaReligion.com to find out how you can become a student and member of the new spiritual order. That's OrishaReligion.com. Let us begin.
Greetings, everyone. Here we are again with another Foundational Friday. I am, of course, your host, Yuya Assaan-ANU, Chief Jegna of the ANU Spiritual Order and head instructor of the Sadulu House Spiritual Center. Fortunately, we are broadcasting on this Foundational Friday, but we're calling it Foundational Friday, but it is actually Saturday. Because of some prior engagements that I had, I was unable to broadcast our show at our regularly scheduled time, and that's just how it is. Sometimes my work as a priest and as a community assist comes first, above and beyond everything. So when duty calls, pretty much most things have to be dropped by the wayside. And fortunately, many of you listen from the archive, so I'm sure you pick up the show at a time post its usual scheduled time. So, for all those wondering what has been going on with that, especially lately, well, I know there's been a lot of showtime and scheduling changes, and hopefully I will be able to put some systems in place to defeat that issue. But this is a lot of work. There's a lot of people who need things done and need work, need help, need readings, need counseling, need guidance. And that comes first, above everything. That comes first. Unconditional service to humanity is how we get better at all of this, even beyond listening to the shows, reading the novels, watching the DVD lectures, so forth and so on. When we serve and put ourselves in a position of vulnerability of the warrior, okay, because that's what the warrior is. The warrior is just someone who is allowing themselves to be vulnerable at all moments. When you put yourself in that position is when you make leaps and bounds in your spiritual study and awareness. As too often as many people I speak to who have been studying these sciences for years, and when you speak to them about their contribution or what they've done with them, they've done absolutely nothing. They've taught no one. They haven't given any counsel, any guide. They haven't done anything other than just stayed in meditation rooms in the corner of their homes and, studied things for themselves. That's bad business. So that is the reasoning for some of our delays as of late, and even the one on this day. Okay. But in any event, getting back to what we're here to do, and what we're here to do is to learn, to grow, to expand, and to recover what was taken and kidnapped, or what was lost, what was neglected and left by the wayside. And that is our right minds. Okay. So we'll be covering the movie Atlas Shrugged, which is based off of a novel that came out in 1957 by author and philosopher and thinker Ayn Rand. Okay, very profound book. I first came in contact with Atlas Shrugged through the literary novel, and some may be familiar with her other work, Fountainhead. Okay, but Atlas Shrugged was one that really caught me for several reasons that I'll explain as we move forward. But the book itself was about it was 1,186 pages. Yeah, I remember the number. It was 1,186 pages. So it was a sizable work, and I think it could have even been double that size based on the amount of topics and avenues and concepts that were covered. There was a lot in it, and it was a very profound, prolific, and thorough writing. Very, very thorough. She did an excellent job on it. And Atlas Shrugged really dealt with the United States in a time that wasn't necessarily specified in the book, but it was a dystopian state. And for those of you who may not be aware of that term of dystopia, what it means is this is a time when we see a complete decline, and maybe what we'll call a collapse. Even we'll say collapse of governmental or economic or environmental structure as we know it. When we think of the term utopia, right, which is closely related to the word Ethiopia, which in effect is a Greek word, but still, utopia and Ethiopia are very closely related to each other. But the utopian society would be a society where one's God self or Godhead is completely expressed and liberated. More importantly, it's liberated, okay? And then when we have the dystopian society, it would be somewhat of the opposite, and it's usually as a result of science meddling a little bit too far in nature, or it's a result of totalitarian government, and that would be a government that has total control. Like they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay, so totalitarian government would be one that, some would say like a dictatorship, or one where the government is controlling all industry. Okay, and that is one of the themes that we have in the movie and in the book Atlas Shrugged. Of course, I'm encouraging you all who have taken the time to watch the movie to certainly read the book. There's just so much there that you don't really get, with the movie, although the movie was an excellent work, but as always, the books are usually much better, but in any event, so we have this dystopian society where the economic structure has collapsed and government has meddled in the world of business beyond a point of reason. Okay. And you'll see in the movie things like, gas prices being exorbitant, like $100 a gallon. But it's not so far out that we couldn't imagine it being such. The things that you see, obviously there's intense unemployment. You have people walking around with signs on them, with their resumes, like, on cardboard signs around their necks, like advertising themselves. And you'll see like VP of Exxon now looking for work, and they're out there like panhandling. So it shows you a complete collapse. The streets are absolutely empty because fuel prices have raised so high that people don't really drive anymore. Only the very rich drive. And this story or this movie is really about the pure passionate pursuits of the very rich and successful. Okay. And often when you look at dystopian societies, that is what brings the collapse. It is the aggressive onslaught and pursuits and ambitions and desires of the overly rich, those who have so much money and so much drive and so much ambition and passion that they crush everything in their path. All right. So what was very interesting about this entire movie, and there are two parts. There's an Atlas Part 1, Shrugged Part 1, Atlas Shrugged Part 2. And this year there's going to be an Atlas Shrugged Part 3. I think the subtitle is John Galt or Finding John Galt, something like that. And we'll explain a little bit what that means, as we go forward. But yeah, let's first hit on the mythology. I think that's very important for us to understand exactly what the movie, the concept and the idea that the movie was pivoting on. So we'll start with, again, like I said, the mythology of Atlas, right? Now, of course, we're dealing here with Greek mythology. Greek mythology, of course, co-opted and coming really usually from Kemetic or Egyptian mythology. But I want people listening to also understand when we're speaking about Greek mythology, because sometimes I get those questions and it's like, oh, you speak about the Greek thing and the Roman thing. How does that tie in? The original inhabitants of Greece, the original culture was melanated culture. I want you to understand that. Okay, the Greeks that you mainly know of and hear about, they were farmers. They were agriculturists. Okay, their thing was not even war to the degree like this, the Romans, like the Spartans. They were farmers. Okay, and they wanted to get what we'll call that good stuff, that good information, that good knowledge. But prior to them even being in that environment, the original Greek culture was actually melanated culture. Okay. But then later these farmers came and they co-opted and borrowed and learned. Some of them were very respectful about what they learned. Even when we look at words like hieroglyph means sacred, hero. Our hiero is sacred and glyph means carving. So, they acknowledged that the Egyptian hieroglyphs were sacred. They were sacred carvings. So even in their own language, there was some respect there for some, and for others, there was less. But in any event, you have this idea and story of Atlas. And the word Atlas itself is where we get the term Atlantis. Now, this becomes key in the movie as we understand that John Galt, he is inviting people to a place called Atlantis. Okay, this is taken, and of course, where we get also Atlantic Ocean. But Atlas, okay? Atlas was the head of the Titans when we're dealing now with Grecian mythology. And if you understand the story about how the Titans once tried to overthrow the Olympians, okay, so the Titans, just so you know, the Titans are melanated people. So you'll see yourself and understand who you are in this story. You might say, oh, I'm Zeus, I'm Hermes. No, you're not. Those are the deities or the gods that are prayed to, that have to be done away with one day. In Nordic mythology, this is called Ragnarok, the day that all the gods are killed and that Asgard realm is destroyed. Well, you had this attempt in the Grecian mythology when the Olympians tried to the Titans tried to overthrow the Olympians. Okay, this was melanated people who are melanin dominant. Let me say that because everyone is melanated, but people who are melanin dominant, overthrowing false gods and idols and systems of influence and control that have outlived their usefulness. Atlas headed this up. He headed this crusade up. Okay. So what happened is the revolt or the insurrection, it didn't work. Okay. And, most of the Titans were confined to Tartarus. Okay. It was an island. It was like a prison island. They were thrown to Tartarus, but Atlas, because he was the head of the insurrection, he was given the job of upholding the heavens on his shoulders for the rest of eternity. Now, of course, usually when we see these images of Atlas, we actually see him holding the world, the physical, the earth on his shoulders. This is not actually accurate to the original story. He would hold up the heavens and keep the heavens separated from the earth. Atlas was a child of Ether and Gaia. Ether is spelled Aether. Ether was one of the early Grecian Titan deities. Okay. And I think I spoke on this recently with Gaia, and Gaia's relationship to Shango or thunder. And Gaia is the earth, who we call in Yoruba Onile. Okay. So you had Onile, the earth, and you had Ether, and Ether was considered to be a form of divine breath. Okay, ether was divine breath, and then you had the earth. But keep in mind, I said divine breath. Ether was a different type of air. Aether. Now, in Greek, you don't pronounce it that way. Just so you know, I'm pronouncing it that way so you see the connection, okay? But ether was the air that only the gods could breathe. It wasn't the normal air that humans would breathe, okay? Now, Atlas kept that realm, or what they call in the Kemetic culture, light world, kept it separated from the earth. Now, in our Kemetic culture, we have the same figure in the form of Shu. S-H-U, Shu, okay? Shu means wind, air, breath, but Shu is also an archetype that governs the rays of sunlight and also governs the rays of moonlight. And Shu's job is to keep the earth, or Nut, you know, the night sky or the sky, separated from the earth. Geb, this is Shu's job. And Shu means to initiate or to launch. Okay, another form also of Shu's name means he who holds up the sky. Now, I want you to pay close attention to the fact that in our original Kemetic or Egyptian story, this entity, Shu, later known as Atlas, was one who held up the heavens, and that was considered to be home. Okay, and then eventually that home was changed to the earth. So when we have Atlas is still holding up home, but he's holding up the earth. So it's almost like the Kemetic, the Egyptians were saying, our home is in the ether, and the Grecians were saying, our home is on the earth. Okay, just think about that for a moment as you write your notes before you move to the next thing. Very important when we think about places like Valhalla and Olympus and how they're always on the planet. The Grecians and the Romans, the Romans' heavens where their gods live were always here. But the Kemetic or the African thought was that the higher self or the deities are not here on the planet. Okay, so it's important to note that Shu also means empty, or that who rises, who goes up higher, who rises up. Okay, and of course we know Eshu is also a form of Shu as well, the initiator, the one who starts something. Okay, Shu was created by Atum and Luaset, okay, which was an earlier form of Osset. Okay, but there were also stories of Ra creating Shu from his own masturbation, and he put his seed inside of his mouth, and he gave birth to Shu. So there are different forms of that story, but we do know that Shu's sister is Tefnut, and Tefnut, some people pronounce it Tefnut, but it's Tefnut, represents moisture in the air. And he had his two children, like I said, Nut and Geb, Nut being the sky and Geb being the earth. And it was important that these two stayed separated. Okay, and if they didn't, if the heavens fell onto the earth, then all life would be over. Okay, it would be like Ragnarok. It would be the time when the poles shift, and man ceases to praise the heavens, but now the heavens are dependent on man. Okay, I want you to pay close attention to that. There's a lot there. Okay, now also we always saw Shu with the Ma'atic feather, the ostrich, and his hair, or on his head. And that not only represented the fact that he was a cooling energy, Shu, or Atlas, he kept things calm and cool, but he also was an energy of the sky. Now, you know that when we're dealing with Ma'at, we're dealing with various concepts. We have truth, balance, order, law, morality, and even-handedness, or some like to call justice. I don't really like the word justice too much because it's got too much ice in it. And I'm not my people are not from the ice, you know? So even-handedness is a substitution for the word justice. But Ma'at was the cornerpin and the cornerstone of Kemetic society, right? So Ma'at held up the moral constitution, or the celestial constitution of Egyptian society. Ma'at held this up. Okay, very important. So Shu wore that feather in the hair. So now imagine if one day that which is holding up the moral construct and the pursuit of utopian atmosphere and format and condition within the society, if that entity that was holding that up shrugged and just said, I don't want this responsibility anymore, and walked away. Okay, this is the premise of Atlas Shrugged. Okay, so I had to give you that mythological background first so you would understand the precept of the actual story, and even the precept of the title, Atlas Shrugged. Like, why is it so significant? Because you have these individuals in society who are serving not only as the economic, moral, social, and governmental compass, because they are part of that talented 5% that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him, has spoke about, or what they call the talented 10%. These are the people that kind of are the passionate motive for moving forward in society. And what if that motive for the pursuit of more, of individualistic achievement, just decided to walk away? As much as we speak against it, as much as we do, it is these individuals that keep things moving. And the zodiac used to be similar to the Leo energy, the lion, the one, the sun, who says, I'm going to do this. It's all about me. You know, so that energy is absolutely necessary. Okay. And these people serve as the Atlas or the Shu, the initiators, the ones who rise up of society, just like Eshu. He's the one who says, you know what? I'm going to make this thing happen, or you're going to pick something at the crossroads. You're going to make a decision, while the rest of society is basically sheeple, or just individuals who just go along with the flow. It takes the Atlas individuals to rise up and say, no, there's a purpose. I have a spiritual ego and a human ego, and my human ego desires to leave its imprint and its mark based on nothing but the pure beauty of my ambition. This whole movie was centered around the Orisha Ogun. This was an Ogun movie because it dealt with pure passion, ambition, and drive, and nothing else. And the right for people to have that. And governments meddling in that process, taking away the possibility of monopolies, taking away the possibilities of big businesses really controlling an industry and dominating an industry, you know, distributing things amongst smaller organizations who may not be as efficient, may not be as strong, you know, and really looking at the fairness in that. And of course, we have this character, John Galt, who was like our mystery man. And I'm really breaking down the movie part 1, so you don't really get into meeting or learning John Galt too much yet. So I don't want to give too much away on that. But this energy of John Galt it was a question that people would ask in society. And it was like, what it meant, they would say, well, who is John Galt? So it meant, that question meant like, don't ask questions that you don't know the answer to. So for instance, if someone asked a rhetorical question or a question that no one could answer, they say, who's John Galt? You know, like, I don't know who, you know, we'll never know that question. So John Galt was this individual who was actually liberating, these high achievers from their corporate responsibilities and the responsibilities and the pressures that society had put on them to be these overachievers, and said, hey, why don't you just come with me to a place called Atlantis, where you'll actually be appreciated for your achievement. And these people started to disappear all over the world, because he would take them in the instant, like he would come to their home or their job and say, you have to go now. Like, this is not a, think about a thing. Either you come with me right now or not. And of course, most people were leaving. So people were disappearing around the world left and right. All of the world's top scientists and corporate strategists and engineers and things like that. And obviously, it was sending things into its tailspin. Within this movie of Atlas Shrugged, we're going to get into some of not just the metaphysics of it, but the philosophical concepts that were brought out that revolve around objectivism. All right. And we're going to do that right after this break. I'll be right back.
For all those in the New York area, please check out our Chief Jegna, Yuya Assaan-ANU, at Nicholas Bookstore on Sunday, January 19th from 2 to 4 p.m., where he will be hosting a workshop on self-actualization with the cosmic forces of West Africa. In this workshop, you will learn how to self-actualize through the universal energies that govern the laws and character of the cosmos. This workshop is a continuation of the Unleashing of Cosmic Forces of West Africa series that is currently being enjoyed by thousands of listeners on Chief Yuya's popular blog talk radio show, Enlightenment and Transformation. The workshop is Sunday, January 19th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Nicholas Bookstore, which is located at 570 Fulton Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11217. The cost of this event is $10 at the door. Be prepared to change your life through aligning your spiritual faculties with their corresponding cosmic archetypes. Meet Chief Jegna Yuya Assaan-ANU at Nicholas Bookstore on Sunday, January 19th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nicholas Bookstore is located at 570 Fulton Street, Brooklyn, New York. For the workshop, Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa. The first 10 people to RSVP on the Enlightened Spirit Meetup website will receive a free one-question reading. That's right, the first 10 people to RSVP on the Enlightened Spirit Meetup at www.meetup.com/African-spirit-workers/ will receive a free one-question reading. See you at Nicholas Bookstore in Brooklyn, New York for the workshop Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa. And now, back to our segment.
Okay, here we are again, and we are now dealing with the second part of this movie, or this breakdown, I should say, of the movie Atlas Shrugged. And I received a message on the Sadulu House Facebook wall by one of our students and asking, will I be breaking down part 1 and 2, because there actually were 2 movies. And I will actually, because I won't even be able to cover everything from part 1 in this show. So I'm really just giving some background more so. And, I'll break it up over parts. Maybe I'll do some impromptu shows like I did a month or 2 ago and just give some impromptu side information or just release it to the a new spiritual training students. But what I'd like to say too also in regards to the announcement that just went forth, for those of you who are interested in coming out to Nicholas Bookstore and being a part of that workshop, which I will be actually unveiling, we'll say, some new information as it pertains to this work, as it pertains to self-actualization, and more importantly, effective rituals that we can do. I've really been focusing on that in this season, really giving people things that they can apply immediately and start seeing some changes within 10, 15, 30 days. So it will be a different movement and twist from what I normally present, and most likely I will be also filming it, and that DVD and that movie will be available for download. Okay, so but I encourage you, those who are coming out, make sure you RSVP on the meetup.com website. Our site for our new nation is meetup.com/African-Spirit-Workers. And if you look, you'll see an event there. And under that event, you have the ability to RSVP. So definitely you want to do that ahead of time to let us know that you're coming. That would be excellent. But, enough of the infomercials. Let's get back to our understanding of this wonderful and excellent film by Ayn Rand. So when we left off, I was speaking about the concept of objectivism. And this concept is one that really deals with full immersion, appreciation, and acknowledgement only of the three-dimensional reality, and that there is no place that the soul resides, there is no place that the spirit resides. Fatalism and fatalism just deals with our fate, whatever our fate is, or destiny does not exist, but things are what they are, and it focuses on the merit of individual achievement. as opposed to offerings to humanity, or as opposed to our desire or our ability to pretty much maintain each other. It also removes the ideas of relative metaphysics, or what some call relativism. It takes that out of the mix. So there's no metaphysics, there's no meta anything, there's no supernatural anything. Life is what it is, and each individual has the right to free will. Okay, we all have our individual right to free will, and idealism is removed from the picture. So this is very critical when you think about governments, when you think about the idea of intellectual property and the retaining and the maintaining of your intellectual property rights, which is pretty much completely gone, especially, whether I'm on this Blog Talk show. Once I put my stuff on Blog Talk or YouTube, they can use it however they want. Those who exist primarily on social networking sites, those emails came out years ago about how any picture you put up there can be used for an advertisement. And though they say advertisement, they're not really saying the fullness of it. You don't own your presentation anymore. Your avatar is not your own. Okay, it is the property of those who you share it with. So you have lost your intellectual property rights, intellectual being your mind, your thoughts, your cerebral, and in many senses your identity. You have lost the right to your own mind. Okay, so objectivism, and even this book, Atlas Shrugged, the movie, I keep referring to the book, but the movie Atlas Shrugged really gets into the idea that reality exists as an objective absolute. So not just an objective absolute, and that was quoted by Ayn Rand when she had really introduced the idea of objectivism. What she said was reality is an objective absolute, and things and the world is full of facts, and those facts or those truths are not dependent or do not hold sway to how one feels, wishes, hopes, or fears. Okay, now that is in complete opposition to ideas of like the laws of attraction. How you hope, feel, or think or wish creates and constructs your reality. All right, this is not the idea of objectivism. And I'm not expressing these ideas because these are necessarily my concepts or my philosophies, but it's important to understand different ways of thinking and different approaches, because there is much merit in the ideas expressed in this book. So you have two characters, and each character's name has another breakdown to it, but we won't even have time to do that. But you have Dagny Taggart and her brother James Taggart. And like I said, because of the high fuel prices, the world pretty much runs by freight train now. Okay, and they own Taggart Continental, which is a railroad line that stretches across, the continent basically. And as railroad line owners, they are in a business that is on a slow decline, and really the whole world economy is slowly collapsing. They're having incident after incident, accidents. They can't get a hold of enough metal ore. The steel that they're using is old now. And there's a character by the name of Hank Reardon. And Hank Reardon comes up with this new metal, which he calls Reardon metal, which is lighter than steel and like 10 times stronger, and it lasts forever. It lasts for centuries. Okay, so what happens is, because Hank's only ambition is to make money and to push himself further as a scientist and a businessman, he is despised by society. Because what we see in this work is that society is currently ran by egalitarians, or those who would be considered communitarians, those who want to share everything with everyone, help everyone to develop and come to the same level. But then you have these overachievers, or these self-motivators that exist in society, and they're not properly appreciated, because when they create something of great work, it's misused, or it's stolen from them through intellectual property rights being violated. This is very similar to our stories of Ogun, when Ogun gave iron to the world, and it was said that the world began to use the iron for wrong purposes like warfare. He retired and went into the woods to work on his own projects by himself. And this is when Oshun came out with the honey and bathed herself in honey and danced naked in front of the river and brought him out of hiding. Okay, but he was perfectly fine just leaving humanity, because he said they don't appreciate what it is that I give them, and they don't even appreciate me for giving it to them. We see this constant theme in this movie Atlas Shrugged, especially with Hank Reardon. If you notice how he's treated amongst his wife and friends, he's ridiculed for the most part, and he's kind of an outcast in his own home. His mother doesn't respect him. His wife doesn't respect him. His brother Philip just hits him up for money and doesn't even allow, like when he gives money for charities that his brother Philip is representing, he's not even allowed to put his name on the check because the charity wouldn't want to be associated with Hank Reardon. His friend, betrays him. He's around a lot of betrayal, and the only one he connects with is this other Ogun energy by the name of Dagny Taggart. They're both two Oguns coming together, but they're two aspects of Ogun. Whereas Hank Reardon would be considered Ogun Lakaye, the one who spreads his influence throughout the earth. That is the Ogun Lakaye aspect. You would have Dagny, who would be more like Ogun Irin. She's an Ogun that shows no emotion. She has no emotions about anything. She's just like the steel tracks that are that are on the railroad. There's no emotion, and they only drive and move ahead. That is some of the symbolism that we get with this idea of a railroad line. It's something that is driving and that is pushing forward no matter what is happening. It's just pushing forward. Okay. But again, there's this overhanging theme of reality. And if reality is a product of our ideas and our wishes and our dreams, or if our reality is something that we make by our individual achievement, and in this society, individual achievement is somewhat looked down upon, which you see in many dystopian movies or books you read. The individual is crushed in light of conformity. Okay, so you have this guy, John Galt, I'm making a long story short here, and he starts to extract these people and he brings them to a place. You don't get to see this yet, but I'm going to give you a little spoiler. John Galt brings the people to a place it's a valley in Colorado, and he calls this valley Atlantis. Now, I should also note that not only did Atlantis get its name from Atlas did not get its name from Grecian culture, just so you know. So I'm not saying that the Atlantic Ocean got its name from the Greeks. No, not at all. There are also mountains in the Moroccan and Algeria region with that same name of Atlas. Okay, that's a much older form of that name. It's actually an African word, and that word means to endure. Okay, to endure. Okay, so as we have the idea of Atlas holding the world upon its shoulders, we also have this ideas of those who seek for individual achievement in society end up having to totally uplift and uphold society. So should it not only be fair that if they are now forced to uphold society, that they are now given the opportunity to enjoy the spoils of their work? According to government, no, they are not. Everything should be equally distributed. Okay. So again, we're dealing with the idea of relativity versus free will, or what we could even say, as Ayn Rand would put it, determinism versus free will. And there's an idea of mental or metaphysics ruling over determinism, which just means that if you're determined to have something, or if you have an idea about something, that it will eventually kinesthetically lead into a cause and effect reality. Okay, so if I keep thinking about something or focusing my attention on something, eventually it will lead into a reality that will be real. But then you also have free will, which says, there is no orchestration in my life other than what I orchestrate myself. And most things that I do are reflexive in some degree. It's just my reflexes at work. Okay. Free will is a fact that's obvious. You know, we have the choice or the free will. We have will to do whatever it is that we want. Now, is the thought that is all that controls our reality or not? Well, that's what's kind of expressed in the movie, because you have Hank and Dagny, and their only ambitions is to achieve. That's it. They just want to achieve. They don't want to be a part of any social groups. They don't want to uplift humanity. And they're very hard and real about what life is. If they see something that's not going to achieve, that has no hope, they'll just say, this has no hope. They are brutally honest. They are Oguns. Okay, there's no doubt about it. And Dagny's brother, James, is an Oshun energy. He goes to Washington and he's the president of the company, but he has the ability to relate to people and schmooze with them and get them to do things that he wants. And he can pull in a lot of political favors, whereas Dagny has no idea that that type of world even exists. All she knows is the cold, hard feeling and exhilarating rush of her ambition. It's a purity to her. It's a purifying force. Her ambition is purifying, whereas the people who are around her and Hank Reardon share the thought that happiness is the greatest purifying force. Happiness purifies one of all sorrows. But they have a thought that being a workaholic, purifies one of all sorrows. So when you're dealing with this concept and the idea of the train, you're dealing with travel. So sometimes even the thought of a workaholic, which we know that Ogun is the incessant workaholic. He actually works 24 hours a day and he eats while he works. But oftentimes when we couple it with the idea of the imagery of the train, we realize that the person who's a workaholic is not necessarily racing towards something that they're excited about, but they're running from something that they're afraid of. And through their running from things that they have a fear of, they become what's called workaholics. Okay, constantly moving towards something else. Okay, so the one who is immersed in the ideas of objectivism, as Dagny and Hank are, you know, they see nothing as being supernatural. So all their healing comes from what they put their hand to. Okay. Their aspects and their ideas of nature only deal with the nature of the individual. So we see this constant theme in the movie of not only individualism, but of course of non-sentimentalism. And that's apparent in our two main characters. And we have a government that's now pivoting and pushing this concept of what one might call aggressive communism, where they're forcing people to share things. But on the other side of it, one might think, or one might say, that the highest form of human achievement is the highest level of materialism that they could gather unto themselves. Because if you came to the planet to be a human, then really you should be completely pushing that human experience to its maximum threshold. And that may mean monopolizing businesses. That may mean, you know, pushing things to the tilt, and totally, removing yourself from the need to victimize yourself as a sacrificial lamb for those who are less fortunate. It's constantly shown in this movie, especially when you see the relationship of Hank Reardon with his family. He supports all of them and they have no respect for him, and he feels like he has to take care of them. So he becomes the victim. And it's what Ayn Rand called the sanctioning of the victim. Okay, he becomes a victim to them, and in effect, because he becomes a victim to them by allowing them to use him in a certain way, he actually causes more harm than good, you know, by becoming that martyr, by becoming what we'll call the sacrificial lamb. So it's really key when we think about the idea of one, again, Atlas. You know, Atlas did not decide to lift the heavens because he was forced to do so. Many people think that was a punishment. He lifted the heavens because no one else was there to do it. Okay. And this is a very key movie. I think the breakdown is very important when we speak about ourselves as priests and priestesses and what it is that we are really here to do. And some might say, well, we're here to serve the people. But others might say we're here to serve our own purpose, and if the people get helped along the way, so be it. I will tell you that is how I approach it. Okay, and making yourself that sacrificial martyr or lamb for the people, you'll find that most often you'll be completely knocked off course for what it is that you actually came to do, and in effect, no one gets helped. when you're moving in that form and you're moving in that way. So there's a lack of sentimentality amongst the characters who are really achieving at a certain rate. And this is also necessary in order to remove the grip of big government over the people. So them extracting themselves, or John Galt, who was a famous physicist. He was a brilliant physicist who created this engine that could run on a static electricity already present in the air. Okay. Now, if any of you know about Nicholas Tesla, and if you don't, I suggest you look him up. And those of you who are familiar with Obatala, I want you to look up Nicholas Tesla, or Nikolai Tesla. He was a Russian scientist, and I want you to compare him with your understanding of Obatala. But Nicholas Tesla had come up with this theory where he was able to he saw that above the earth and below the earth, there was these fields of energy. Okay. And they even orbited the earth, and he was developing theories and ways to grab onto that energy that was already present in Earth's atmosphere and turn that into electricity. Okay. And he was fairly successful. He's also the one who invented the concept of Wi-Fi, or let's say cultivated the concept of Wi-Fi, which is a better way to put it, and powering objects over a distance without any connecting cables. Okay, this was Nikolai Tesla, and his story is very interesting. I don't want to get off into him, but if you want to understand how Obatala works, the scientific aspects of Obatala, and why he is the energy of omnipresence. So it's important to understand that, again, when we're dealing with that idea of Obatala, just for this particular example, and like I said, I won't get off too much on it, but we understand that human beings, our alpha waves, at resting or at standing still, they resonate at a frequency of approximately 8 hertz. Some will say 6 to 8 hertz, and others will say 6 to 13 hertz or 8 to 13 hertz. But at standing, it's about 8 hertz. Now, the electrical resonance of the planet Earth resonates at the same frequency, 8 hertz. Okay. So the electrical field that surrounds the planet, or what in Vodun, who we call Dambala, which is the snake that wraps around the planet, suspending it in the air, and Ayuedo. Okay. Those are the two snakes. We understood this, and many of our different cultures, we understood as Obatala, one who is the father of all, or who we call Rishanla, but who also sustains the livity of the planet through this resonant frequency of 8 hertz. And 8 hertz means 8 cycles per second. So let's say if you saw something like flashing or vibrating, if you could see like your own, or your pulse even, right? There's a pulsation of electricity that resonates from your brain and even your whole body auric field, and it pulsates 8 times a second. Well, the earth pulsates at the same rhythm, so do all mammals that are on the planet. So we're all vibrating at the same frequency of 8 hertz. Okay. That's a vibration that all humans, mammals, and the earth's electrical field are vibrating at. So there are different ways that you can pull free energy out of the atmosphere. And Nikolai Tesla was one who began to develop this science, this theory, and he was suppressed by the government. He was suppressed. Okay, so this is another example of exactly what this movie is kind of getting into, where the pursuit for human achievement is always stunted, is always thwarted, and it's always hindered in light or in favor of communitarianism. Oh, you can't achieve at this level because nobody else has achieved at this level. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair for people who haven't developed at the level that you have, for you to go on to develop at that rate. So this idea that John Galt brought forth in the whole place of Atlantis, and just even in the movie that Ayn Rand, what she was kind of projecting and what she was promoting was the idea of practical materialism. Okay, and practical materialism really deals with I can have as much materialism or as much as what I want, or based on how much I achieve. And by stopping me from doing that, you're really creating an oppressive society, you know, where I can't monopolize a certain energy in industry because I have the strength to. I can't, you have a prejudice against me because I have a certain trade and I have the ability to totally master and take that trade to the next level. So objectivity or objectivism says, you know what, whatever it is that I can do or whatever it is that I'm capable of is my own property. And I don't have to feel this connectedness with society or people as a whole. Okay. Even the ideas of self-sacrifice, okay, are pretty much really spoken against in a way, but it's a very subtle way that is done in the movie. When we deal with the ideas of sacrificing ourselves for the good of the whole, this is considered to be nonsensical, and in many senses makes sense, because if you think about just what's needed for evolution. For evolution, you have to allow certain people to drop by the wayside in order for you to sift out the zetas and the betas, so that we eventually will have a world of alphas, so that we're moving forward with a certain power. Again, this is the energy of Ogun, and this is the energy of the train, which again is the constant theme in this movie, driving forward and driving quick with the train. What's very important here is concepts of self-denial. Okay, and removing yourself from the obligation of self-denial, because it is said that if we can look at humanity or individuals on the planet, we'll say humanity, and say that essentially and generally humanity is good. Okay, we'll just use that terminology, good, or has some form of upright moral structure. The denial of anything that has to do with humanity would create evil, because it will be against the nature of humanity. So what one would think of as to be as denying of self, or self-denial, or even sacrificing of aspects of yourself would actually bring evil into the world, because by denying aspects of yourself, you're denying the divinity, even though they're not going to, Ayn Rand is not looking at it in terms of divinity, but you're denying the specialness and the whole holistic presentation and the whole holistic manifestation of you as a human on the planet. So if I'm greedy, that is a part of my good. If I'm selfish, that is a part of my good. Okay, so it's a very interesting concept, and of course one will immediately say, well, then everything is good and everything will be great. You know, of course we could go there, but again, we're looking at the ideas of objectivism and removing ideas of religion, spirituality, and ideology or idealistic philosophy from the mix. And this is so much of an Ogun energy, because Ogun drives forward with passion and thrive, because Ogun is that pure red. Ogun is not hindered by feeling. Ogun is patient and quiet and still and unmoving. Okay, just like iron, just like steel. And even though we say that Ogun is an archetype of iron, Ogun is an archetype of metallurgy. All metals are Ogun. So steels would be Ogun as well as aluminum and tin and copper and you know, all the such. These are all metals of Ogun. Okay, and their properties, the stillness, the unfeeling. All right, the ability to support society, the ability to hoist society up. And again, in the book or in the movie, Ayn Rand refers, and John Galt refers to these individuals who are the Atlanteans, we could say. He refers to them, or she refers to them, as the motive makers. Okay, the motive makers. They are the ones that are the motives, or even the motors of society. They are the motors. They are what's keeping the world moving, what's keeping the world driving forward. So the removal or the abstraction of them from the greater society now would allow a collapse, which then they can reintroduce themselves to the world and create a world that's based off of evolution and achievement. Okay, so basically this is the underlying concept of Atlas Shrugged, and of course it has its spiritual implications, it has its emotional implications, it has certainly its political implications, and it goes so much deeper. Like I said, even in terms of the names of the characters. Hank Reardon is a form of sound vibration. Hank comes from the term Ankh, or the word Ankh. It's the same word, Hank and Ankh, same thing. So life, how sound vibration or vibration brings life, speaking things into existence. And you'll see this as a constant thing in the movie. There's always these speeches, especially in the book. You have these long speeches, and they're usually centered around objectivism. Okay. But it's the concept, the overall concept of this movie deals with the purity of drive. Okay, the purity of drive, and how no one has the right to interrupt, hinder, block, or even kidnap your intellectual property or your right to drive with passion and purity. And we live in a society that is slowly doing that and putting the heels on that. Even in our spirituality, okay, we're told that we need to move a certain way. We need to drive forward a certain way. Or even when we're dealing with initiations in our pursuits for knowledge and information, everything is staged. Oh, you got to go here, you got to go there, you got to go there. Well, what if I'm just extremely talented, extremely ambitious, and I just want to do this on my own and drive through? Do I have the right to do that? Certainly, because no one owns the intellectual property to your soul, spirit, or brain. If you so choose to do that, you can do that. That's up to you. Now, if you're received by humanity, that's another thing. For instance, Reardon metal, there was this amazing metal that Hank Reardon had made, and Dagny Taggart was the first one to actually order it because it wasn't selling at all. And in effect, in order for the government to suppress this new amazing metal, they put out all of these false reports about the metal, how it was dangerous and it represented a public hazard and it wasn't properly tested and so forth and so on. So you can go out there and you can achieve at your highest level however you want, but no one is forced to accept you as that. Okay, you can go and take your money and spend it on initiations and go jump out there and then run back and say, okay, I'm this now, and come and support me and come get readings and come in. No one has to show up. Okay, but you are certainly entitled to doing that. You are certainly entitled to all the information that you can get your hands on. Now, that doesn't mean that you can make demands of a teacher. I mean, certainly no one's going to make demands of me as a teacher. Even if they're ambitious, then you can go on with your ambition and keep striving. I encourage you to do so because that is your right. But it doesn't mean that you will be acknowledged as someone who deserves what you've gotten, because a large part of this is production. This whole movie was also about production. It wasn't just about the desire for achievement. It was about what have you produced. And if you're not producing, then you're really not as significant as those who do. Now, unfortunately, in the spiritual arena, what we see is a large contingency of those who are not about achievement, but about obtainment. They want to obtain title. They want to obtain paraphernalia. They want to obtain rituals. They want to obtain godchildren. They want to obtain godparents. They want to obtain money. They want to obtain mates through their spirituality. They want to obtain so many different things, but have no desire to achieve anything. They don't want to achieve any levels of real information, knowledge, and experience. They don't want to endure the path and the work of achievement. The enduring, again, coming from the word Atlas, dealing with the Atlas Mountains in Algeria, Africa. Okay, this is reaching that high, or Atlas being that who holds things up, is a form of achievement. It's something that you have to strive and achieve towards, wanting to go into the space where Shu is and breathe the air of the gods, the ether, the air that normal people can't breathe. How do you make yourself beyond normal? How do you make yourself supernatural? How do you look and decide I'm going to be a cut above the rest? It has to be based on what you achieve and what you produce, not just what you're able to obtain. That actually means absolutely nothing. And this movie really touched on that theme and that theory very well. But of course, like I said, this was just some background information on the movie. There's so much there. And I will certainly have to do a part 2 as requested, where I will break down the actual names and certain scenes and lines that were said in the movie that are critical and pertinent to understanding the philosophy and the thoughts of Ayn Rand and how we relate that to our spiritual walk and our spiritual way. But in any event, as always, I am Yuya Assaan-ANU. That has been our show, folks. And be sure to check out Anu Asafo this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where you can experience the sounds and pleasures and information of the Anu Asafo student body. And again, those who are interested in chapters in their area, please reach out. You want to send a email to questions@anunation.org. Do not send them to me. questions@anunation.org. Send them to my team. For those who have customer service questions, you can go on any of the sites in the lower right. You'll see a live customer service rep who will help you out with that, with whatever you need. Many people have been using that, and I congratulate you on that. You've been getting the help you need. But that's where you go and ask your customer service questions about discounts and classes and coupons. Don't ask me those things. Customer service. All right. So in any event, it's been wonderful, and I hope you got something out of this movie breakdown, coupled with your watching the movie Atlas Shrugged. Odabo.
We thank you for your listening support and urge you to become an active participating member of the ANU Order. Please be sure to follow our Ustream broadcast, which can be found at ustream.tv/channel/enlightenment-and-transformation. That is USTREAM.tv/Transformation. Also, please be sure to sign up for the ANU newsletter, which can be found by going to anunation.org. That is ANUNATION.org. If you'd like to become a sponsor or an on-air guest on this or any of our other broadcasts, please be sure to contact us at questions@anunation.org. That is the word questions at anunation.org. Thank you for your continued support, and be well.